As we go into this short section, we're going to study the quadratic equation a little more closely, and we're going to look at what is called the discriminant. Now, the discriminant is this, and depending on this value, it's going to show us various kinds and numbers of solutions we will get when we use the quadratic formula. So let's take a look at what they're going to say. And again, you could read this, it's in your textbook, but I want to just go over it with you. So there is the discriminant, and we're saying when you plug in A, B, and C from your equation into this, and the answer is 0, this means that you're only going to get one solution that will be a real number from your quadratic equation. Now, if you again plug in your numbers into your discriminant, and it's a positive number, and let's say it happens to be a perfect square under the radical, your discriminant becomes a 4. Well, that's going to be a 2. Now, you will get 2 real and rational answers out of this. Now, how about if it's not a perfect square, like the square root of 5? Remember, you're going to get, it's this plus and minus that gives you the two solutions. Here you're just getting plus or minus 0, which doesn't change anything you have over here. Okay, so here it's not a perfect square, so your answers will be real numbers, but they're going to be irrational because of the square root of an irrational number. All right, let's go down a little bit further. Now, suppose what you get when you plug in your substitution items into your discriminant and it becomes, let's say, negative 3 under the radical sign. It also could be the square root of a negative 4. Now, here you're going to get imaginary numbers or complex numbers. This will be 2i plus or minus 2i, and this one is going to be plus or minus the square root of 3 with the I out there. Okay, so again, that's what they're giving you in summation of this chart. Now, if you were to graph these, you'll get to see what it would look like as well. So let's do these. And we'll use the work they actually show us. So there it is in standard form. Our A is 9, B is negative 12, our C is 4. We put that into the discriminant and we get a 0. So we're only going to get one solution. And if you graph that, it would just be one solution. It would only intersect the x-axis at one spot. Okay? There would just be one solution. And let's look at the others. Now for this one, again, you're substituting the A, B, and C into the discriminant, and we're ending up with a negative 7. So this is going to be plus or minus the square root of negative 7. So this is going to be an imaginary number, which in our final viewing will become plus or minus the square root of 7i. Now, in this case, you're not going to get any real number solutions. That is, your parabola does not extend down onto the x-axis. This is very typical of what imaginary solutions would be like. These, now they're numbers, all right. They're just not real numbers. Okay, and then for the last one, plugging those in, we get a 73. So the plus or minus the square root of 73. Here we're going to get two real solutions. Okay, that's a little summary of what's going on there when we use the discriminant, and you'll be practicing this. And here again is a nice summary of what we just went through. Two real solutions, and again, they may be irrational or rational depending upon the nature of your discriminant. Here it's going to be 0, so you only get one solution. Here, no real solutions. There is no x-intercept. All right, this next one, we did a little bit of this back in, I believe it was chapter 5, where they're going to give you the solutions, a 2 and a negative 3, and they want you to work backwards to what is the equation. Well, the strategy of this would be that these probably came about from something like this. And if these were the answers, and you put an X there and an X there, it would be opposite signs. So this would be a negative 2 there, and this would be a positive 3. And then you would just FOIL that, and that would give you x squared, and that's going to be plus x minus 6 equals 0. So there's your original equation that you factored into this, that you then ended up with the solution set 2 from this one and negative 3 from this one. So let's look at A. So again, the strategy would be set it up like so. There's going to be an X there and an X there. Now for this one, it's very easy because it's just going to be opposite signs. But this one, remember, we had to divide to get this denominator. So we're going to put the 5 over there, and then the opposite sign of a negative 2. And that would be in its factored form. Now we FOIL this, and we get 5x squared. Outers are 2x, inners are negative 15. So a negative 13x minus 6 equals 0. Now, the book is going to give you this one way. I'll show you another way now, and then you'll look at the book's way, and if you want, you can write that out and use that as a model. But this would look like this, I think. X squared, because I can see it here, plus 4 equals 0. Then, using the square root principle, we're going to transport that to this side. That becomes a negative 4. Then take the square root of both sides, and we get then x equals plus or minus 2i. Now there is this way to do it too, but it's a little complicated, and I'll let you see it on the next slide here. So there's our first one that we did. Now the second one, they're saying you could do it because these are in a sense the result of conjugates. You could set it up like so. So it then becomes this in its equation form once you FOIL this. And notice when you have I squared, that gives you 4I squared. I squared is a -1, which gives you your +4. And that's what we had. And this one again, they're conjugates. So you can set them up as conjugates. And you square the x's, multiply that. That's going to give you a negative. 5 times 5 is 25. Square root of 7 times the square root of 7, square root of 49, which is 7. And then 25 times 7 is 175. Okay, looking at letter D now. Here we have 3 variables. Well, 3 answers, I should say. A -4, a 0, and a -1. So basically, you're going to place each of your solutions in this sort of system, working backwards, or from a -4, it would become a +4. 0 just stays 0, and this +1 becomes a -1. So this is what you have. And I would put the x out here. So I'm going to FOIL these two, get this as I FOIL, then multiply through by the x, and it brings it up to this. And then that is my final answer and the equation. Again, if you wanted to undo it, you'd factor out the greatest common factor x, you would factor this, then equate each of the factors to 0, and get your 3 solutions. Okay, this is going to wind it up, and we've tried to keep it short. And again, do your practice, your quiz-mes to earn your mastery points. We're almost finished with Chapter 8. Just one more section.